Dr. Santilli, I have a quick follow-up question on something we discussed a moment ago, Professor Womack's report, the University of South Florida professor's report.
Yes.
I know we talked a little about that being on the Galileo Principia website. I have a question separate and apart from that website. Have you sent a copy of that report to anyone?
No.
Okay, thank you.
It is too much negative against me for me to propagate that report.
She's another scientist who refuses to take your ideas seriously, is that right?
I'm sorry?
Would you say she's another scientist who refuses to take your ideas seriously?
Objective form the question.
That's perfectly legitimate. Is the accusation of fraud that is criminal.
Okay.
Can be prosecuted in court.
Okay. Let me ask you about this article that was on the scientificethics.org website. And it's marked V117. A copy for Mr. Parrish and Mrs. Santilli. Let's see if you recognize that.
Where was this?
Joe, I don't know if you want to chime in here, but the date I see it on is June 7, 2016.
This looks to be, well, at the top it has a title here. It says Jewish Corruption at Wikipedia. Over to the right, there is a date of 8th of June, 2016. And then as you go into the body, at the top there is a date, June 7th, 2016. There's a heading here that says Lying and Cheating of Pepijn van Erp and Frank Israel.
It's a website. That's a separate website.
It looks like it is all I see is at the bottom, HTTP
No, this is a composite.
archive.is/dbijx.
There is a separate website, and the Lying and Cheating of Pepijn van Erp. That is, this is a reproduction. This is a composite. At least, unless I see it, I can express no more. However, I know that there is a separate, not to repeat, a separate website, Lying and Cheating of Pepijn van Erp. I think I have
okay, but
a copy
Dr.
here.
Santilli, stay with me for a second.
Please, go ahead.
All we're looking at is the document.
Here it is. Lying and Cheating of Pepijn van Erp. I have the real website.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, but all I'm doing is showing you this document that has been provided by Mr. Lake.
Yeah.
Up here it does say saved from www.scientificethics.org, and then it has a further address on there. So just to give you that.
Thank you. What's the question, please? Let's move.
Well, my question was if you recognize the article Lying and Cheating of Pepijn van Erp and Frank Israel.
I know, not this one, but I do know the real article, which is this one.
Okay, let's go ahead and mark that V118 then, and I'll ask you some questions about it.
You want this one?
If that's okay.
Sure, of course.
Okay.
I'll give you one, and I have a copy for Attorney Parrish. I'm sorry, Carl?
There is the other piece attached.
You mean the other one, this one?
Yeah, that is part of the article.
Yes, this is another one. This is what Pepijn van Erp is called. What is called? It's called. Could you read it, please?
It's called
Could you read? Could you read the
chess?
first?
Chess.
You guys, please. Okay, so this is. Are we going to mark this as a composite exhibit, or is this a separate, or what do you want to do?
Let me ask about this exhibit and then about that one, so just so the record's clear what we're talking about, and then we'll get to it, if that's all right. We've marked.
This is your copy.
Okay, thanks.
We've marked as V118 a document Dr. Santilli just handed me, and has the name Pepijn van Erp at the top, and then the headline Lying and Cheating of Pepijn van Erp and Frank Israel. Where did you obtain this document?
From the web. You do a search. It's very if you do a search on Van Erp, it comes very quick.
Okay, so you did a search for Mr. Van Erp's name, and you
yes,
found
I do this frequently now.
Okay.
Yes.
Were you involved in creating this article?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I have no idea. But he has many enemies, you should know.
Okay.
I'm not the only one that's been unjustly attached by that man. So he has many enemies around the world.
Have you sent links to this article to anyone else?
No, not that I know.
Okay.
I don't have the time.
Okay. Have you sent copies of it to anyone?
That perhaps.
Okay.
Send the links, not copy, but I may have sent a link.
Okay.
I may.
Do you know if a a link was posted on scientificethics.org.
No, not that I've not been involved. No, I've not been involved in scientific ethics since I took a position as CEO. I told you before, I repeated.
And specifically when you say position of CEO of Thunder Energies?
First, because I'm position of CEO of the Magna Gas Corporation in 2007.
Okay.
That's when I left scientific ethics. And then I became a CEO of Thunder Energy, an additional reason not to be a member of the International Committee of Scientific Ethics. It was in conflict with my position.
Okay. So, looking at 117, which, as I say, is an archive document from scientificethics.org, you're not aware of how the lying and cheating of Pepijn van Erp and Frank Israel ended up on scientificethics.org?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Although I don't see that as a real website. This seems a composite,
Okay.
from my knowledge.
Thank you. Now, you had a second article that you were referring to there.
There are many. We collected only two
Okay.
of the many, one copy per each of you. Could you, Attorney Parrish, could you please read, and we want this on record, read the first lines.
Yes, hold on just a second so I can finish my notes.
Of course, take your time.
I'm sorry, are we marking this as V119?
Yes.
Dr. Santilli, this has, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but it says Polar Bears Palaver, I believe, up at the top.
I don't
And then there is a date of Sunday, October 21st, 2012. And then there is a caption of a photograph, which it looks like may be Pepijn van Erp. And above it, the title Cheater Number 18, Pepijn van Erp. And then it's got content underneath.
And then could you read the first line, please?
The first line of the first paragraph?
The paragraph, yes. Carl, is that the one?
I think this was on the west, yeah.
So you want me to read the first paragraph?
Yes,
All right.
please. It's very important for this lawsuit.
Okay. One of many subhuman online cheaters from the Benelux area, he was banned in the August last year and became already almost forgotten, well, until last week when I stumbled upon him again.
And this is, Dr. Santilli, this is another article you found through an internet search of...
Search, under Pepijn van Erp, yes.
Okay.
There are several others, only two.
Okay. And again, do you recall...
You see, this is an independent host somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall sending a link to this article?
The link to the article, not this one. I remember this one. No, I was only recently I became aware of this one. This one, no. But I think the other I did. I may have sent it to whom I don't remember. That's so much ago.
Okay. Thank you.
Incidentally, I don't think you received Attorney Parrish. You didn't receive a copy of those websites until recently. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we didn't even send the link to the Attorney Parrish to prove my point.
Let me ask if you recognize a document I'm marking V120, and perhaps Ms. Parrish, you could just give a description. Here's a copy.
Dr. Santilli, this looks like a 13-page document. At the top, it says International Committee on Scientific Ethics and Accountability. And then the date of this is September 15th, 2007. And the title is Open Denunciation of the Nobel Foundation for Heading an Organized Scientific Obscurantism.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Just let him ask okay.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
You anticipated my question. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Okay. Did you write it?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you know about it.
I know about it because this is an international debate of the Nobel Foundation on the severe attack because their claim that under accusation of being the top of the pyramid of the power on all the theory, and the top of the pyramid in opposing basic advancement. So that it is under very severe documented allegations. And,
Okay. And I think you helped me, or Tuesday rather, with obscurantism. Remind me, what does that mean?
Obscurantism is a period in which basically all knowledge is suffocated. After the Roman Empire, we had obscurantism, because for 1,000 years there was no, until the Renaissance in Italy, there was nothing. The knowledge accumulated by the Roman collapse, even building enormous marble structure, everything was lost.
Okay. And you agree the Nobel Foundation at this time was involved in obscurantism?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's one of the primary responsibility. It is part, in my opinion, part of the control of science in the United States of America. It's my documented knowledge that unfortunately this is the case.
The document on page 12 has the name William F. Pound, Chairman, International Committee on Scientific Ethics and Accountability. And the way the document's formatted, I see that as a signature because it's right before the references. Do you recall anyone named William Pound who was the chairman of that committee?
No, he was the pen name of this used by all members, individually or collectively, of the International Committee. It was a pseudonym, of course.
I see. And at this time, were you involved? Were you a member of the committee still?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
This was prior to 2007. Tell me the date, because without the date I cannot answer.
Okay. Yeah, I think Mr. Parrish can help us. It was September 15, 2007 is the date.
Then at that time I had left the committee. It
Okay.
is on the web on the scientific ethics itself. There is the date, the precise date in which I left the committee, and the reason why I left.
Okay.
I think it was prior to that. However, I'm familiar with that. Because all the scientists all over the world, they send me allegations against the Nobel Foundation.
And do you recall the date in 2007 when you left the committee?
Oh no, I cannot possibly recall.
Okay.
I think it was before 2007. It is in the website. The correct date is there.
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's public knowledge. So, we ask for something that is public knowledge, but you have to search for it.
Let me show you another document from scientificethics.org and see if you recognize this one, Doctor. Here's the original and a copy for Mr. Parrish.
This is V121?
Sorry, yes.
Do we have to go through all those documents? This is an enormous website, Tony Parrish. I think I'm beginning to have difficulties with this type of thing.
I understand, Dr. Santilli. We don't even know what the question is yet, so I don't have grounds to object at this point because I can't tell whether it's associated with the lawsuit.
Do you recognize this article, Dr. Santilli?
Can you read it for me, please?
Yes. It is, again, from the International Committee on Scientific Ethics and Accountability.
The date, please.
The date, it looks...
It's no date.
I don't see a date.
It's okay. What is the title? If you
The
don't mind?
title is Documentation of Organized Scientific Crimes in the USA, England, Italy, and Other Countries. And then here it says, I provide below verbatim duplicates of some of the footnotes of Foundations of Hadronic Mathematics, Mechanics, and Chemistry, Volumes 1, 2, and 3 by Professor Ruggero Santilli. But that's not saying that you wrote this article, it's just claiming that whoever wrote this article provided. Oh, it's signed by William Pound down here as chairman. But there is no date that I see on this publication.
Yeah. William Pound was a very old pseudonym of the committee. It was later superseded by the Luca Petronia.
Do you recall? Do you recall an article in which someone posted on the committee's website duplicates of some of the footnotes from the 3-volume foundations, of hadronic mathematics, mechanics, and chemistry? Okay.
I'm not aware of 3 volumes under that title that you indicated.
Okay. Underneath the pseudonym William Pound and the title is the phrase, "with distress for being unable to disclose his true name at this writing, to prevent the same academic and family disruption suffered by Professor Santilli, and in this way being incapacitated from containing actions." I think you told us a little bit about the reasons for anonymity. Is that phrase I just read you correct?
Necessary for survival, otherwise people have been threatened with their life.
Okay.
It's organized scientific crime.
Okay. And so it's accurate to say that you had suffered academic and family disruptions?
Of course. Through decades.
I'm sorry?
Has been going on for decades since
Decades.
I started my studies at Harvard University beyond Einstein. Early 1980s, so we're talking about 4 decades of continuous, relentless attack by the organized scientific crime.
Have you written a book titled New Sciences for a New Era?
An article, yes, not a book.
Okay, an
A
article.
big article, 150 pages.
Was it an article that appeared in a book, a collection?
Published on the peer review in Cambridge, United Kingdom, England. Peer review journal in Cambridge, England.
And was, and I'm just trying to get the terminology straight, was the title of the book New Sciences for a New Era, or was that the title of your portion?
Well, you have to tell the entire title.
Sure.
If New Sciences for a New Era is the entire title, that's my review. It's a review paper. If you say New Sciences for a New Era, it's used in many articles now. And then semicolon. It says mathematical, theoretical, and experimental discovery by Ruggero Santilli. That's a monograph written by 2 authors, Kaideshvili, and the other is. Carla Egmi, Gazda, both of them will receive life threats. Gazda is from Ukraine, is still alive, but he had to abandon the field because he was threatened by the member of organized crime, scientific crime in Ukraine.
Okay.
This has been documented in writing.
Okay. Real quickly, you can't rely on Carla to give you information, and especially if Carla starts talking at the same time as you, then we can't get it on the record, okay? Okay.
Thank you, Tony Parish. We're tired. We're
I know.
definitely very tired. I don't know for how long I can take this.
Okay, well, it's...
Especially because it's not relevant to the lawsuit in my judgment.
Okay. And let me show you what I think will be the last article on scientific ethics, and then we can move on to another subject. Mr. Parrish, this is a copy for you. And this, we've marked this V122. And although for completeness sake, I've given you the entire 56 pages, I just want to ask you about the first 2 pages.
Looks like at this point this is a document with 156 pages. It's titled...
Sorry, 56.
That's fine.
What's the
this
title?
large title here is "This page contains ethical notes personally written by Professor Santilli in various works and removed by the editors." And it looks like "various" is misspelled. And then it has here ethical notes written by Professor Santilli for the book New Sciences for a New Era. And then it goes down with section 3.3 in ethical notes. And so then it looks like there's different writings.
Yeah. I don't know what's the question. I need to know the question before I What's the question?
Well, the first question was just, are you familiar with this document?
It appears to be, I have to check it personally, it appears to be, yeah, the website.
Okay.
So what's the question?
Okay, well, that was the first question. The second one is, this is from scientificethics.org, and as I think Mr. Parrish said, the title at the very top of the page talks about ethical decay in science. And then this appears to be a collection of notes that you drafted but were excluded by editors from publication. With that background, do you recall anyone compiling a list of work, a list of your writings, notes that were rejected by editors?
Object to the form of the question.
I do not recall. What I recall that I wrote, there was a section of a book, in course at the end of each section I put an ethical note. The editors removed the note. I accepted it because it was purely taken as all equations. And those notes...
It was purely?
I'm sorry?
It was purely, what did you say after it was purely? She didn't understand.
Because the book was purely technical with lots of equations. And so I accepted, I wrote those notes out of my emotion because this is not the way to pursue scientific democracy in America. And so I accepted the request by the auditor to remove those comments. And those comments were collected very likely by the editor or somebody else. Whether those are my actual comments and all of them, that I do not know.
Okay. And was the journal that you were submitting materials to called Physical Review Letters?
I published in journals of the American Physical Society until I joined Harvard, and when the faculty, Stephen Weinberg, Shelley Glashow, and Sidney Coleman, were controlling the Lyman Laboratory of Physics at Harvard University, when they started to oppose my research under DOE support because contrary to their interest in Einstein. At that moment, since that moment, I was prohibited to publish any article in any journal of the American Physical Society. They controlled it, they're very powerful guys. They controlled the American Physical Society and its journal.
Okay. Let me ask you about one instance in particular, which I think might be different than what you're describing, but tell me if I'm wrong. In the 1970s, when he was associate professor of physics at Boston University, Santilli returned to these early studies and submitted a paper to Physical Review Letters. And then a few lines later, this document says, unfortunately for science, Santilli received a very dissonant review, rejecting the paper. Do you recall that incident?
No.
Okay.
I read many papers, and I need a technical. I will need the title of the article to remember.
Okay.
But it looks like a very. It looks like true.
Okay. Let me just ask you about one other passage from this document. It's on the next page, under the heading Ethical Notes.
Which page is that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, page 2.
I'm sorry,
Page 2.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a heading section 3, 4, and then ethical notes.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read the first sentence there. The serious scholar should be alerted that Einstein's gravitation is one of the most ascientific fields of inquiry because populated by Einstein's fanatics without any regard to due scientific process and knowledge, solely intent in serving organized interests on Einsteinian doctrines. Do you agree with that?
Who is the author of that?
All I know is that this appears to be a collection of ethical notes on the scientificethics.org website. It's attributed to you.
Is this one?
Yes, sir. I was reading from the second page.
Do you want help?
Well, I can answer by saying that you mentioned before the Galileo Principia. There is an entire website establishing that the space cannot be curved. Not only is not curved, but it cannot be curved. It's not my words. Those are the historical objection against Einstein's gravitation. All of you don't need a PhD to see it. That when you see it at sunset, you see the sun. Still, you see the sun. But in reality, the sun that you see is not there, is down, is already down. This is due to the fact that when light propagates through our any atmosphere, it's bended. So the so-called bending of light that was used by Einstein as experimental evidence on the curvature of space has no physical foundation at all. The light from star in the back of the sun, that light is bended by when passing through the chromosphere of the sun, according to many, many experiments, with no contribution. There cannot be any contribution from the actual curvature of space. It's my personal opinion that Einstein gravitation is a magnificent mathematical theory, but has no physical content.
Okay, and so is the field of study.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, is the field of study of Einstein's gravitation populated by Einstein fanatics who failed to regard what you just described?
Failed to debate the limitations. They have suppressed the limit, to debate for 1 century. This objection that I mentioned is not mine, that the space cannot curve, namely the curvature is due to refraction of light in the sun chromosphere, was moved immediately over 1 century ago to Einstein, but it was suppressed by this organized crime.
Okay.
It has manipulated science for 1 century by suppressing democracy. Democracy means debating without names, expressing technical experiments with equations, with full respect. Einstein was and is one of the biggest scientists in the history of mankind, period.
Jim, I just got notification that we could push him back tomorrow till the same time.
Oh.
Let's go off the record first.
Yeah, and find my phone and see. I would think that's...
We're back on the record. Go ahead.
Dr. Santilli, let me ask you about your biography on Wikipedia. I understand there's been a perception of corruption with regard to your article on Wikipedia, and I wondered if you could tell me about that.
Yes. The article in Wikipedia is not only my opinion, but the opinion of hundreds of scientists all over the world who have contacted Wikipedia, tried to establish the truth according to the Wikipedia rule, and rejected. All corrections are automatically rejected. They have a system, I do not know, I don't remember the technical name, in which any correction is automatically rejected. The articles only states things against me, and carefully avoids any evidence in my support. As an example, they quote this criticism by Carlo, which which is of course legitimate. It's a criticism that Carlo essentially criticized my discovery of this new species of magnecule, and so that is a legitimate quotation for Wikipedia. But where that becomes corruption at Wikipedia is when Wikipedia refuses, systematically refuses to quote jointly a patent by the United States government given to me on magnecule, of which I have a copy that I request to be put on record. Here is a copy of the patent. This is my attorney parish. I insist that this be on record. This is a patent I obtained on magnecule. Now this also qualifies Mr. Israel first, and then Mr. Pepijn, and then Pepijn qualifies them on the slander. First Israel in Dutch, the slanders as always in the Dutch website, and then Pepijn slandered Magnegas Corporation as a pyramid scheme for developing Santilli theory and magnecule, covered by a patent on the United States of America, and the NASDAQ invites me to ring the bell. I had my picture as my picture. I'm sorry, I had my picture in Times Square, as tall as 15 stories, made by NASDAQ when I had the honor, etc., etc., or when the Chinese government invites me to make a presentation of this new species at the international conference at the Hainan Island, etc. So all those people are stupid because they invite. So that's why there is a lawsuit.
Okay. I believe the situation you just described is also described in an article on scientificethics.org, and I just want to show you that, and if so, we can put that in the record and move on. I have a copy for Mr. Parrish.
Can we move on, please?
Well, let me just ask you to
How
take
many
a
of
look at
this
the
you have?
article.
I'm sorry, has this been, what's this been, we're 123, is that right?
Yes, 123.
Okay.
Is this an article from Scientific Ethics regarding the corruption on your Wikipedia article, as you just described?
Dr. Santilli, this is showing International Committee on Scientific Ethics, and then here it says documentation of Jewish dishonesty and corruption on Professor Santilli's article at Wikipedia, and then it shows Luca Petronio as the author, and then again International Committee of Scientific Ethics and Accountability. And then it has here, it doesn't seem to have an actual date of the article itself.
The Luca Petronio is old.
But then it says on November 23rd, 2013, members of our committee made the changes identified below to the article at Wikipedia, and then it goes on.
Okay, what is the question?
So I believe, rather than asking you to go through in detail the corruption which you've summarized,
okay,
this article sets forth the corruption you've described. Is that right?
I presume so.
You're not familiar with this article before today?
I don't remember the content. My God.
Okay.
I'm interested in science, not in this. I don't want to use French name, which I should.
But certainly the Committee on Scientific Ethics and Accountability is familiar with your work, correct?
They are familiar with work, and they are very familiar with the corruption at Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia rule, Wikipedia should present all evidence in favor and against, and let the reader reach conclusion. They present only negative references.
Okay. So, and again, I'm trying to move things along here without us belaboring.
Please, thank you, appreciate it.
But
thank you.
You would find, or sorry, is it your opinion that an article on scientificethics.org discussing corruption in your article at Wikipedia is reliable?
Is
reliable?
Yes, because the members of the scientific committee are serious people. They're committed to scientific democracy, which is suppressed at Wikipedia to serve organized interests on Einstein.
Okay. Very
against the democracy in the scientific democracy in the United States of America.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm not the only one. There are thousands of people all over the world.
Now, let's turn from Wikipedia to the Nobel Committee and Nobel Prizes. And I know we've talked about that off and on the last couple days, but I want to spend just a few more minutes on it. You've clearly studied and written in a number of scientific fields, at least that's my perception. And your biography, which you brought and discussed in your opening statement, definitely discussed Nobel nominations. But my understanding is that you've yet to be awarded a Nobel Prize. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll never get the Nobel Prize, not with the current totalitarian total control of the Nobel Foundation. Nor it's totally outside my mind.
Tell me why you say that you'll never receive one.
Because the Nobel Committee is known to be totally controlled precisely by people who are paying you. I can say this. You are paid by American money. The same people control. Actually, if you want to know the more details, the control is beyond imagination by normal American people. First of all, the same committee. I'm starting to get tired. But there are things that you are, after all, you are Americans, and you should know. First of all, this organized interest of Einstein, they control the money that is owned by the Nobel Committee. is in banks controlled by those organized interests, number one. Number two, the numerical majority of the members of the board of directors of the Nobel Foundation are members of this organization on organized interest on Einstein that includes many ethnic rules, not necessarily Jews. Of course, Jews are there, because otherwise it would be a farce. I don't want to be part of it, but contains many ethnic groups. So this group controls there's a numerical control of the board of directors. Then every year, the Nobel Committee sets up the committee in physics, chemistry, medicine, etc. Each of those committees is numerically controlled by representative of this organized interest. The net result is the number of Nobel Prizes granted by, sorry, I apologize, thank you. And the number of Nobel Prize granted by the committee are extremely questionable. Some I can mention one, for instance, in astrophysics for the so-called acceleration of the expansion of the universe, following clear pure theory, following clear, incontrovertible experiments done on Earth, that those conjectures have are political and they have no foundation. Those are the words of Albert Einstein, not mine. He died without accepting the expansion of the universe because the Hubble laws implies that the light emitted from faraway stars has a redshift, namely a decrease of the frequency toward the red, which the redshift is proportional to the distance d. This is stated everywhere, including Wikipedia, but a corruption, not by Einstein, Einstein was Einstein, but a corruption in Wikipedia and elsewhere do not state that this dependence is radial in all directions from Earth. Therefore, the expansion of the universe implies Earth at the center of the universe. These are the words by Albert Einstein, Edwin Hubble, Fritz Zwicky, Enrico Fermi, etc., etc., and all scientists who died without accepting the expansion of the universe, because it implies the return to the Galileo time, with the Earth at the center of the universe. There's, for 1 century, this organization of scientific crime as managed by the control of news media, journals, scientific journals, not even managed to avoid the discussion, even the consideration in international meeting and conference, and that's why they kept control. And now they do this by attacking the professional dissident view, by slander, defamation, vulgarities. That's what they do, because they do not have a technical argument, and so they retort to slander and defamation.
Let's talk for a moment about the committees you referred to, the committees that select Nobel Prize laureates. I think I have found information that's exactly consistent with what you said, that the process of nomination and selection of Nobel laureates is controlled in the sense that only certain people are qualified nominators, correct?
Well, repeat your question. I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm getting tired.
I understand. And let me give you a document. Maybe this
I want to be a little bit understand deeper what you mean with your question, please.
That's a fair point. And let me give you a document that I think will help, and that might make things easier. This is V124, and Mr. Parrish can certainly describe it to you. But I found this on the Nobel website, and it describes, in this case, it's the Nobel Prize for Physics, that the nomination and selection of physics laureates is limited in the sense that qualified nominators must be in, and then there are 6 categories listed here: Swedish and foreign members of the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, members of the Nobel Committee on Physics, which you referred to, Nobel laureates, so I guess prior winners, tenured professors in the physical sciences at the universities and institutes of technology in Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and Norway, and then 1 institute in Stockholm. 5 holders of corresponding chairs in at least 6 universities or university colleges selected by the Academy of Sciences. And finally, 6 other scientists from whom the Academy may see fit to invite proposals. So I guess the way I read this, only the Nobel Committee is set up in such a way that only certain individuals are allowed to nominate people for the Nobel Prize in Physics.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So Nobel Prizes are fabricated. I reached the top of academia with a position at Harvard University supported by the Department of Energy. I've seen a Nobel Prize being fabricated. Very easy. If you are a member of this organization, you collect 500 qualified scientists from all over the world, asking that they nominate you. They reach an agreement, you nominate me, then I'll give you a chair, I'll let you allow to get this research grant. They are essentially negotiated. And then the Nobel Committee receives 500 support, 5 letters, very, very famous letter of support to University of Moscow, Berkeley, MIT, etc. And then final decision is reached by the board of directors. And who acts following the people who keep or are managing the money of the which are members, for your knowledge, member of unfortunately for America, member of the Federal Reserve. So the banks of the Federal Reserve are part of this unfortunate suppression of scientific democracy in America. They control everything, including the money of the money of the Nobel Foundation. It is all orchestrated, manipulated. There has been no Nobel Prize granted on anything novelty for now, for a century. Basically, so it is one of the biggest shadows in the history of human science.
Okay.
The Nobel Foundation is the biggest scientist. Not because I want the Nobel Prize, but I've seen many fantastic Americans could have got the Nobel Prize with real novelty. Forget about it. They lost their job. Even forget the Nobel Prize. They lost their job.
And if since I'm obviously not on this list, I don't meet any of the criteria to nominate someone for a prize. If I had, let me finish the question, but I think we're going the same place. If I knew the name of one of those scientists you just described with an innovative invention or discovery, and I sent in a nomination, no matter how worthy it might be, it would be ignored because I'm not an authorized nominator, correct?
Will not even be considered.
Exactly. Okay. Okay. Now, you've posted a number of nominations you've received for the Nobel Prize.
I received
correct?
many since 1987.
Okay.
Apparently, I'm told hundreds. I've been nominated hundreds of times.
And I want to show you what I think is one of them. We've marked this V126.
Do we have V125? I'm sorry.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Let's do 125 first. 125 is the qualifications to nominate someone for the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. And I believe its list is very similar. Is that your understanding that the process works the same way?
Same way, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. 125 then is I'll give you a copy, the process in chemistry. Okay. All right, with that out of the way, now let me show you V126, which I believe is one of the nominations you've described. And I gave you a copy, Jim?
No.
Oh yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Do you mind, Attorney Parish, let me know who is the author of this nomination?
Sure.
If it is available.
Yes.
It may not be available.
And I can help with that.
No, it's not available. It has been erased.
Well, let me ask you about that. If y'all are looking in the right place. This to me appears to be a 6-page nomination letter directed to the Nobel Committee for Physics. And although you're right, Dr. Santilli, the typed information is redacted, it appears to be the name George F. Weiss, who we've discussed earlier. Is that Mr. Weiss's nomination?
Let me see. Not necessarily. Normally they remove the names to prevent from people being attacked.
Okay.
In this case, John Weiss, assuming that they said he could be acting on behalf of the actual. All those lines, it means that there is a physical person which has been covered to protect, to prevent him to be attacked for slander and defamation.
Okay. Well, we discussed George Weiss earlier, an editor who had worked with you at one point, correct?
Yeah, certainly he was qualified to collect, to be the bearer of. He was not qualified to be a nominee,
Okay.
But he certainly qualified, being an editor of a scientific journal, certainly qualified to bring to the attention of the committee qualified nomination. It looks like this. From the fact that the name has been erased means the person was qualified.
So he's qualified in the sense that
As
he is
a
knowledgeable.
Not, but as a referral, yes.
But
no, he's not assigned. He has no record of scientific publication, so he's not. You need to be a scientist to nominate somebody for a Nobel Prize in physics or mathematics. You have to be either have a record of publication in physics or in chemistry. He's not.
So is it appropriate for the scientificethics.org website to include this document as one of your nominations, since he's not a qualified
This is on
nominator?
the scientific ethics.
It is.
I didn't know. No, it's very inappropriate.
Okay.
No, it should not be there. Nobel nomination is supposed to be very private. Sorry if I laugh.
No, that's all right. So you were not involved in posting this on Scientific Ethics?
It's very damaging to me. Very damaging. Because that's what the Nobel committee thinks. Oh, look at this. Nobel is supposed to be ultra secret. Now, isn't it?
You didn't redact the name and provide that nomination to the committee? To scientificethics.org?
I'm sorry.
Did you redact?
No, I don't know the nomination. They will never give it to
Okay.
me. The nominee is supposed to, one of the most sacred requests for nomination is that the nominee should not receive a copy.
Okay.
Otherwise become, no.
Okay.
So this is evidence I was not involved.
Okay.
Because I know it's very damaging to me. Is the nomination for physics or chemistry, incidentally?
Physics.
That one was physics, yes. And since you asked, I do have one in chemistry I'd like to ask you about. V127. Thank you.
Where did this appear? Where this has been printed?
What I've just handed you is from scientificethics.org.
Also. Which, okay. And what?
Sure.
Read me the title only, please.
Yes, it says nomination for the 2007 Nobel Prize in Chemistry of Professor Ruggero Santilli, President of the Institute for Basic Research, Palm Harbor, Florida, USA. That's the title. And this date is September 15th, 2007.
Okay, that's good enough.
Okay.
Thank you. What's the question, Attorney Lake, please?
Do you recognize this as a nomination of you for the Nobel Prize in Chemistry?
Again, nomination have been kept. I know that there is a committee to nominate me for that's been active for a number of years. But again, one of the conditions for a qualified nomination is that the nominee should not receive a copy.
Okay.
However, I can tell you what's beyond this. This nomination is an equal battle. Also, this has been flaring up in chemistry, however, not in physics. If you are interested, I'll be happy to tell you in a couple of words, and also to you, Attorney Parrish.
Okay, let's let him ask questions and only answer the questions that he asks.
Okay. Well, let me just ask you this, and I do appreciate the offer of that information, but I think for my purposes it'd be sufficient if I ask you about this. There's a note in this document that the name of the distinguished scientist who filed the nomination and its affiliation have been removed because inessential. My question is, we don't know, looking at this document, whether the nominator met the Nobel criteria, do we?
I agree completely. Okay. We don't even know whether this was actually filed at the Nobel Committee.
Okay.
There is no evidence for that.
Okay. And would you be concerned if scientificethics.org is posting nominations that don't actually meet the Nobel Committee standards?
Not necessarily, because they use it to denounce, that's what is the technical point that we are not discussing. that may justify the action. I respect that. If they did it, I should know. I suspect what was this battle in chemistry. That is the equivalent of what's going on in physics. That is very likely has stimulated this.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the fact that I'm getting tired is good for you. Please don't. Carla, are you okay?
Yeah, fine. I'm fine.
Dr. Santilli, there was a name in your interrogatory answers I'm not familiar with, and I was wondering if you could tell me who this person is, if you know. Michael Rodriguez, Rodrigues, and he was listed as one of the people who thinks less of the plaintiff as they have had to deal with the consequences of the defamation by the defendants. Do you know who Michael Rodriguez is?
There is one Rodriguez that was a scientist in Brazil. He died many years ago.
Yes, Waldir A. Rodriguez Jr.
Waldir Rodriguez. But
yes,
Michael
Waldir.
Rodriguez and Michael Rodriguez, there was an electrician, a technician was my employee as Michael Rodriguez.
Okay.
But he has not, certainly cannot talk about the Einstein gravitation.
And he's not someone who would think less of you because of Pepijn van Erp's articles, is he?
I do not know what's the contest. I cannot.
Okay.
The question is insufficient to provide any meaningful answer.
Okay.
Check
Well,
to the form of the last question.
all right. Let me just ask you this question. To your knowledge, does Michael Rodriguez, the electrician who worked with you, think any less of you as a result of Pepijn van Erp's articles?
He does not even know. Doesn't even know the one. It's totally outside. It will never know no.
So as far as you know, no, he does not think any less of you.
Well, it depends. If in the event he knew about Pepijn van Erp, yes, he will be directly affected.
Well, I'm not asking you a hypothetical. I'm just asking if you know. Do you know that he thinks any less of you because of
again,
Mr.
I have
Van
to
Erp's
answer the same
articles?
question. In the event, the person that you know, that there are many people who have the same name, including scientists. I mentioned one from Brazil. In the event that person that I don't know who is knows about the defamation, yes, definitely, because when you throw mud, some of the mud sticks. That's what they do it.
Okay.
That's why your associate, Tony Lake, they have done this attack.
Just answer that question, Dr. Santilli.
Okay.
Thank you. I will try to contain myself.
All right.
I'll do my best. I have my limitations.
I understand the possibility that you just described, but again, my question is simply, to your knowledge, does Michael Rodriguez, the electrician who worked with you,
no,
think...
but,
let me finish the question, please, so I can get it out. Does he think any less of you as a result of Pepijn van Erp's articles?
Again, the question has no sense to me, because Michael Rodriguez, the electrician, will never get involved he has no knowledge of Pepijn van Erp. First of all, he was an electrician many years ago, before even with number two. Number two that he has no knowledge. However, in the event Michael Rodriguez had known indeed about the defamation, yes, he will start to doubt why there is all this attacks against Santilli. There must be some reason why. There must be some.
We're back on the record. Go ahead.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Santilli.
Just a second. The microphone is just... Snap in the Thank you.
All right. Okay. Dr. Santilli, I'm looking at Exhibit V100, and you had indicated that there were some things within this article that you wanted to clarify. And just let me tell you real quickly, the title of the article is Comments on a New Gaseous and Combustible Form of Water by R.M. Santilli, and it's dated for November of 2006. Actually, that's when it was received for publication. Do you remember what you wanted to talk about with regards to that article?
Yes.
Okay.
Very quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Very quickly, according to an investigative agency hired by the International Committee of Scientific Ethics, the article by Carlo attacking my paper on so-called HHO, which is exhibit, which is
it this one?
No, it's a
New
scientific.
gaseous.
This is by me.
Yes, this is
Yes, okay.
by you.
So, Carlo attacked this article, which is exhibit
99.
V99. This attack was commissioned by Arthur Rubin, David Epstein, Mark Bernstein, and or Mark Bernstein, in support of their criticism that they had on my. However, Carlo is an engineer, while
We've made some arrangements.
Carlo was an engineer. While this article is a post-PhD issue on chemistry, based on the molecule, and I want to bring to the attention that the dishonesty of the indicated editors of Wikipedia is given by the fact that they refuse to put in the web, jointly with the criticism by Carlo, which is listed in my article of Wikipedia. The indicated editor refused to list also my United States patent, which exactly on molecule, and refused to list, for instance, my technical criticism of this article, which is available in the IBR website, and they refused to list the support by Professor Eric Trell from Sweden, etc., 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 thus confirming the conspiracy against me, which has been going on since the day one, since the inception of Wikipedia.
Okay, thank you for clarifying on those two documents, and we'll go ahead and put them over here for now so that we can get them back in order. Then I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit V101. And this was an article that was a rebuttal of J.M. Callow's comments on R.M. Santilli's HHO paper. And then if you remember, at the bottom there was this email address, and I think you testified that you weren't sure where this email address came from, but there's an email address, luca54321@verizon.net. And there were some things that you wanted to clarify about this email whenever you were testifying. Did you want to go ahead and add to that?
I have to put in a quick objection to form mischaracterizes his testimony. Go ahead.
Honestly, I don't remember.
Okay.
What was my objection at that time, except that it was something selected by Kadishvili and accepted by the editor. This email, normally when they put an email, the editors will accept. This is an Elsevier, very, very reputable publishing company. So certainly this was a valid email, that's I can say.
Mm-hmm. Was there something that you wanted to talk about as far as the technical aspect of an email that may come from even another country but look as if it is coming through your office?
Objection to form.
Well, this is, you can have an email, a Russian can have an American server and automatically has an American email and vice versa.
Okay.
So for Kaidishvili, I think, however, he not only had this email, but he also had another email, to my recollection, was quoted by Attorney Lake before as jbkaidishvili@gmail.com. That was his most usual email. I think this this email was selected for some agreement that he had with he was. I suspect that Kaidishvili was a member of the International Committee, and this is the International Committee recommended. They agree with Kaidishvili to put this. This looks like an email of the International Committee of Scientific Ethics.
Okay.
And he elected to put, so that all the comments on this article reach the committee directly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Very likely that email was also on a VPN and outgoing system and the SEA income. This type of a very advanced structure, electronic structure.
Okay. And that was the technical issues that you had where potentially emails that were used may be through your IP address, even if they're using the email somewhere else.
If it is under for instance, Verizon, no, but if it is on the pair, yes.
Okay.
All individual, all emails that have the same server have the same IP.
Okay.
But that is the IP of the server. It's not the IP of the location of the location where the email was sent out. This is current technology cannot establish that. The only way in which you establish a physical IP is when you visit a website, and then it goes in the so-called cookies. Mm-hmm. So-called cookies, they have a record of your actual physical IP where you actually are. So if you remove all the cookies from your computer, there is no record of what you did visiting all those websites.
Okay, thank you. You also indicated that you wanted to talk about the Google complex.
Yes, I have to apologize myself, but this very cold wind coming up. I apologize to our cameraman for the noise, but was inevitable. Yes, I would like to dwell on this, because after all, we are talking all individual in this room. We are Americans, and I would like to give you this evidence.
Okay.
A copy to Attorney Lake if you want one.
So we'll just go ahead and mark this as V136.
So, can I do it?
Sure.
Okay, and this evidence
V136.
V136 is a picture of what has been going on essentially for 7 years, namely that the defamation perpetrated by Van Erp. In this case, it is only the quotation of the English website and not of the Dutch, because the Google search was not located. But the point is that the defamation, here you see 2 defamations in this picture, there are several others, but the 2 defamation, with defamation in the URL by Van Erp against me individually, as an individual, they appear second after Wikipedia article under this Google search, Google search under my name. So the point is that defamation have appeared systematically, years after years after year, second after my article on Wikipedia under the search of Google. Now, a number of technicians that we are planning to hire and to have them testify for the jury will tell you that this is only possible with such a systematic, or if there is the approval by Google, and that's the demonstration of the word Wikipedia Google complex. They are part of the same organization, the same group of people. I consider them strictly anti-American because this is a violation of decency, and it can only be done technically what they call an anchor. I don't remember the technical names, but essentially those defamating articles, to remain always systematically at the top, have to be connected to my article. Without such connection, now the proof of the complicity by Google on this, what is in reality a crime in the internet, which personally I would consider a crime because it's very, very damaging for me. We filed the lawsuit because of this view, because this defamation will appear always systematically at the top, years after years after years. And everybody who look at Ruggero Santilli will see the defamation instantly on the top. In the event those defamation were lower in the lower after search, we would not have filed a lawsuit because the damage would have been much more moderate. Now, the evidence established my point. I'm told, I'm not an expert on this internet, but the evidence in which that those technicians, those are talking about also stockholders of either Manyagas or of Thunder Energy. The evidence that they bring is very credible, and they have checked the visitors at those, the actual visitors at those two defamating websites are extremely small, few, 3, 4, 5 visitors, and well, but if you look then below, there is then the Santilli Foundation, Thunder Energy, and so on. You look at the Santilli Foundation, we have thousands of visitors per week. Despite that, even though the visitors are so small that, according to incontrovertible evidence, they are so small, they appear in the top. This can only be done by the complicity of Google. It is my opinion that that's why there's a Wikipedia, Google, Wikipedia has assassinated me in the article, and Google has assisted Wikipedia to maintain the assassination by keeping the attacks immediately after.
All right, thank you, Dr. Santilli. With regards to the publications by both Frank Israel and Van Erp that you've alleged in this lawsuit, there were some questions as to whether or not you had evidence that Mr. Israel knew it was false when it was published. Do you remember that questioning?
Which I had problems with.
Right, okay. With regards to that questioning, hypothetically, even if Frank Israel didn't know that it was false, does he have a duty to make sure that what he is putting out is accurate in the scientific community?
Objection to form.
Well, yes, but the question, he was using slander. The question is there any doubt that Israel was in bad faith by calling me stupid, calling me a pyramid fraud, pyramid liar, pyramid scheme, etc. Other terms that I don't even, they're so offensive that I will not report verbally to this meeting. So only an extremely dishonest person can call a scientist with my qualification, my age, my prizes, including that I carried the title of Sir, call it stupid. Never heard in the history. There have been many scientists who had the honor of being nominated as sirs, being knighted. I am one of those. But the calling a scientist has been knighted, stupid. Come on. This is extremely vulgar, and.
Okay, but Dr. Santilli, let's keep focused here because we're going to run out of time.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let me keep you focused here. When one scientist criticizes another scientist, is there a duty to make sure that that criticism is true?
Objection to form.
The if it is a technical criticism, a technical criticism expressed in proper scientific language, this is absolutely no, there is no need for a scientist. This is it's part of the scientific process. Every scientist has the right of expressing critical criticism of any other technical. For instance, equation number 5 of paper number 7 is wrong, absolutely wrong, because 1, 2, 3 reasons. Even his opinion is entitled to express his opinion without any guarantee that he is correct or not.
Okay. Thank you. So let's ask it a different way. Do you believe that Frank Israel believed what he was publishing was true when he published it about you?
No,
Objection to form.
Absolutely, it's no that it was false.
Okay, that's all I need.
Because
okay, that's all I need. And then, do you believe that when Van Erp published the information he did about you, that he thought it was true?
Objection to form.
No, it was false. But just look at the documentation that Kaidishvili, when Kaidishvili was corresponding, thinking that Van Erp was indeed a serious intent, was a scientist, and just the documentation on me that Kaidishvili sent to Van Erp. So then you call such a scientist for such achievement, you call it stupid, fraud. No, this is all a paid crime.
Okay. I wanted to real quickly refer back to Exhibit V123, and I'll give you an indication of what that is again. In V123, it says documentation of Jewish dishonesty and corruption on Professor Santilli's article at Wikipedia, and it was published by Luca Petronio. And you had talked a little bit about some of the things in this article as being accurate. Are you okay with the title being documentation of Jewish dishonesty and corruption?
No.
Objection.
Jewish was in a section. Even though it's correct, all editors of all, with no exception, they are Jewish.
Right.
Then that is the truth. But however, I object. There is no need to because their affiliate not necessarily are Jewish.
Okay. And again, I just want to make sure that your son-in-law is Jewish, correct?
Yes, indeed. And my best supporters are from Israel. And
okay.
Not only from Israel. I'm writing now papers with Jewish colleagues. And yeah,
okay.
Professor Norman is a Jewish, fantastic physicist.
And then there was, in V129, there was this lawsuit with an order of dismissal. And that lawsuit was Ruggero Santilli versus Fabio Cardone.
Etc., yes.
Yes, et al. And there was some reading from the last page on that order, and in there, Mr. Lake had read the last paragraph that basically said that the case was dismissed. I wanted to read to you the reasoning that it was dismissed and tell me if you remember this or not. And this is under the conclusion of the last page. It says, a pleading drafted by a pro se party is interpreted under less stringent standards than a pleading drafted by an attorney. And then there's a citation. It says, however, even in the case of pro se litigants, leniency does not give a court license to serve as de facto counsel for a party or to rewrite an otherwise deficient pleading in order to sustain an action. And then there's another citation. And then finally it says, even under the liberal standard for interpreting a pro se complaint, the plaintiff fails to state a claim against any party because the plaintiff fails to state a claim after 4 chances to amend his complaint. Further leave to amend is unnecessary. Do you remember that dismissal in this case?
No, not really, because by the time of the dismissal, as I indicated before, I had achieved the totality of my objective. I filed that lawsuit pro se because I knew I had no desire to winning. There was no point in winning the lawsuit against foreigners. So, but I achieved in full my objective because Cornell University removed from their archives extremely plagiarizing about 10 or 15. They removed 10 or 15 plagiarizing papers. And they have never published them since that time because they know that are under continuous surveillance, and if they resume plagiarism, I will sue them again.
Okay.
And,
so let me.
And the other two were the other Fabio Cardone Roberto Mignani was terminated at the first university in Rome. I had achieved my totality of my copy. That's why, as I indicated before, I did not appeal.
I understand. So again, but you wouldn't. You have no reason to disagree with me that the reason that this case was dismissed was because they found that after giving you 4 chances as a pro se litigant to properly plead the complaint, it was dismissed.
Objection to form.
Yes, I knew that my was deficient. There was
Okay,
a number
that's all I need.
Also because the judge was very, very nice. The federal judge, or the federal court is an excellent sort. They called me on a.
All right, we're going to run out of time, Dr. Santilli, so I'm going to try to streamline things. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's my copy. The other thing that I wanted to do, I know that you had given this to Mr. Lake. There was a copy of it, but it actually didn't get listed as an exhibit, and that was your United States patent. And so I wanted to go ahead, and this I think is for the Magnacule.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll attach this as V137. Is there something that you wanted to talk about with regards to the patent so that it's entered as evidence in your deposition?
That the only thing I want to bring to the attention of I want to have it on record that this patent has been issued only following a rather massive experimental verification of the existence of Magnacule, only some of which is being reported here in this patent. So this is the incontrovertible validity of the point, namely that my discovery of this new chemical species of Magnacule should deserve not necessarily acceptance, but should deserve at least respect, because by calling me stupid, this means they call stupid the United States Patent Office. That's mine. I feel offended as an American because they attack the institution. That's why I filed this lawsuit.
All right.
Because it's an attack on our institution. It implied that I'm stupid, a fraud, a deception, etc., etc.
Thank you for expanding on that. I know that you have some other things in front of you that you wanted to talk about today.
Very quickly, maybe.
This is your opportunity to do that. What is it here that you're handing me?
Objection to form.
Yeah, I would like to add this. This is a very important honor that I receive. I wanted to have it on light. This you can see. This is in Russian. We're talking about the time in which this is from Estonia. It was under control by the communists, and the Estonia Academy of Science listed me among the most illustrious applied mathematicians of all times. And perhaps Attorney Parish, please read some of the name of this list, and then at the end of the list, on the top, you will see my name, Ruggero Maria Santilli, and the quotation of a paper for which they nominated me, one of the many papers. Could you read at random, just 2 or 3 names, quickly, some of the names?
Sure, and let's
just
go ahead.
The level. They are Newton, and have the enormous honor of being listed among the most famous.
Okay, I'll do that. This
just
is
a few quick.
Yep, this is V138, and I'll just say Joseph Wedderburn, Leonard Dixon, L.A. Cartan, and it looks like George Sheffers, Edward Studdy, Theodore Mullion. And then on the next page, it has Ruggero Santilli, second from the top.
Yes.
Do you have another copy for Mr. Lake?
Yes, of course. I have 2 copies if he wants it, sure.
All right, so
yes, I want to comment very quickly.
Oh, Dr. Santilli, we got to move forward. So
yes, otherwise it's better not to even mention this.
Okay.
But very quickly, what I want to say here is the following: that the nomination is for applied mathematics, among the most important. Now, the question is that this list does not include Albert Einstein. And for a very good reason, no offense is intended to Albert Einstein, because this is because Einstein never discovered. Einstein is Einstein, but he had no discovery in mathematics. I had lots of discovery in mathematics, and then I applied them at theoretical and experimental level. So, since this list did not include Einstein, the Estonian Academy of Science has been attacked by all those sharks in an unbelievable way. If you go to the US, Estonia, everybody, they go in a bar and have a beer, They will tell you stories, and they're all members of the same organized scientific crime. They attacked the Estonian because they listed Santilli and did not list Einstein. They don't want to have it on record. Now, but this means that the Estonian Academy of Science is stupid, makes a fraud. Another thing I want to have it on record is this picture. Please mark it, and so we can identify it.
All right, we're going to mark that as V139.
And then I have this topic, and that's it.
And that's it. Okay.
Then this is a picture in which it proves that I am speaking with former President Mikhail Gorbachev, the president of the former USSR. I'm speaking with the presence of a Russian interpreter. Gorbachev is one of the most intelligent person I ever met in my life. He spoke English better than me, but yet to speak in Russian, I don't speak very well in Russian. That's why the interpreter. But here is the point. This is this invitation. Extremely, I was received in this. She'll see just a red carpet like Yeltsin, in the same building that now Yeltsin. Putin is there, and all the anyhow. So there's an invitation. Following this nomination, he was a very intellectual person. He wanted to know why I was nominated this famous list, and so here is my point. So President Mikhail Gorbachev, former one of the biggest, most powerful men on earth, is stupid because he invited Ruggero Santilli, who is stupid, and I want to be on record. That's all. To qualify those individuals.
All right, and you said there was one other photograph.
This is the last point, perhaps the most important point of them all,
okay.
Because again, we are American and we should have a feeling of the damage caused by those people to the United States of America. Here, let me go very, very quickly. I want to have this picture on record, please.
Okay, we'll mark that as V140.
And there's a copy for Attorney Legge if you are interested. Okay. Now this picture shows what is called a directional neutron source. Namely, is a new equipment that synthesizes a directional flux of neutron from the hydrogen gas. This equipment is the only equipment capable of detecting concealed nuclear weapon or nuclear material that be concealed in suitcases or in containers. The reason being because the uranium-235 is a permanently stable metal. So nowadays, we Americans do not have a mean in the airport to see whether a suitcase arriving from somewhere abroad contains nuclear material or not, because on the X-ray, a piece of uranium behaves exactly the same as a piece of steel. Now, however, on the neutron, no, because neutron will trigger the decay of some of the uranium, which will create a cascade of very violent radiation with a very clear identification. Am I moving too fast? I apologize because shorter time.
And just to make it clear for the record, you said uranium-235?
Uranium-235, well, plutonium-220, etc. All of them, they are permanently stable metal and can only be identified with a neutron flux. This is established, it's not my word, established in physics. Anyhow, this is a paper, scientific paper.
So is this attached to this paper, or because I thought this was going to be the last one?
Well, then I want to go to as you can have all of them with the single, but I have three or four major. I would recommend to quote them, list them as separate, Attorney Parish. But your decision, whatever you decide. This should be also listed as an attachment, and at least some of those grant applications should be attached. We're talking about national security, Attorney Parish. Let's spend an extra minute, because that's the reason why we filed the lawsuit.
Okay, well, let's just, all I want you to do, though, is tell me what it is and why it's important very quickly, and then we'll attach it, and then we'll move on, okay?
Anyhow, this is a scientific paper signed by a bunch of scientists, including me, but I want to bring it to attention, there is also Jan Rack is a group, to qualify the caliber of the people, is a group leader at CERN, which is the biggest physics laboratory on Earth. Now this paper confirms the validity.
Yes.
Confirms the
Slow
validity.
down just a little bit.
I'm sorry. So do I have to repeat? This paper confirms the validity of the, this is also quotes all preceding articles. It's a long list of literature. Okay, I recommend it as a separate.
Okay, well, one of this is 141, V141.
Any more exhibit stickers?
Then I have 3 more exhibits, and that's it.
Oh, they've already been numbered. All right, very quickly, Dr. Santilli, just tell me what they are and their significance, and we'll move forward.
And those are 3 grant applications filed by Thunder Energy Corporation to our military. The first one is to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, whose primary objective is precisely that of protecting America from the smuggling of nuclear weapons. We are all American here. You should know that the biggest danger that we are facing is that a nuclear weapon is smuggled somewhere in America, and it is detonated in our country. And we have no equipment capable of detecting this because, again, there's a permanent stable metal. So our technology has developed this material. I showed the picture before. It can be inspected by any qualified visitor. The equipment is available now for inspection. So this is an application to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency.
And that was turned down, correct?
This was turned out, and I was called by the officer, because this is a division of the Pentagon. I was called by the officer, very nice gentleman, who explained to me that I am too controversial in the internet, and therefore they are not in a position to act on. But he strongly recommended that in writing that we tried with Homeland Security. I thank the officer. And
do you have a separate copy for Mr.
Yes,
Lake?
yes, of course. I have a copy of everything. And I had it here, so here it is. Yes, here it is.
Thank you.
Excuse me, is that 142 then?
That's 142. Did you get a copy of 141?
No.
And then do you have another copy of the experimental confirmation?
I gave you one to you and one to him. I already gave it to him.
That's all right.
Okay.
Let's deal with it later
Yes.
then. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now the next one is an application to the United States Air Force. This is a copy for you if you are interested, Tony Lake. This I would strongly recommend to list it as evidence. And then a third one, and that's it. I want to conclude very quickly.
Okay, and I'm sorry, just this says a workspace form, and what is V143?
This is a comprehensive grant application to the United States Air Forces that at the time of filing was highly classified because it includes the proposal of basically new technology of direct military relevance, such as, for instance, the dramatic enhancement, the substantial enhancement of the power, of the efficiency of our jet fighter by turning the fuel used in jet fire into a molecular structure, and that pattern proves that there is a dramatic and substantial increase in power, etc., etc. There are a number of applications of direct military relevance.
Okay, and then that was turned down?
Incidentally, one of the co-investigators is Professor Georgiev, who is regular on the military secrecy, because he's active in a number of my collaborators are indeed. Anyhow, so this also was turned down, and and then finally for the same reason. And finally, I have this third, and that's it. And then I want
wait a minute. I want to slow down. So you said for the same reason. Are you saying that this grant? Stop. Let me ask the question. This grant application was turned down for the same reason that V142 was turned down. Is that what you're saying?
Namely, I have to specify, Attorney Parrish, namely for what I indicated before, namely that picture of the search under me. This is the reason why those grant applications, that's a complicity by Google, not only by Wikipedia, by Google, to ensure our direct national relevance.
Okay, Dr. Santilli, you're talking about V136. All right, so the grant application was, this grant application and this grant application were turned down, and what was the reason for the grant application being turned down?
Objection
that you know of?
Because I am they use very generous. Those are very highly professional. Our military are very professional people. I've been supported by the Air Force.
Mr. Santilli,
Okay,
we
so
don't need to do that.
they say that I am too much. I have too many opposition in disqualifying me in the internet. They refer specifically to the search in the internet on the money. They refer specifically to this.
Okay, thank you. That's
So-
all I needed.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And then finally, I have one third and final grant application, and that's it. And here's a copy for you, and there's a copy for Attorney Lake.
Okay, and we'll attach this as V144. And what do you have to say about this?
I want to show a picture. First of all, look at well, can you read the title, please, quickly?
The title is Proposal to Develop the New Neutron Gun.
This is a proposal for a fundamentally new generation of guns, which are the guns of the third millennium, based on the new mathematics, new physics, and new experiments. And because it's basically the neutron synthesis that we have developed for civilian application. You use a particle accelerator, and then the neutrons become extremely powerful. And this is a gun that can essentially create a devastation far away without any collateral damage. It will go through will penetrate to neutron will penetrate to 1 foot of steel for a tank, or so it's extremely powerful. This has been only possible thanks to our first ever synthesis of the neutron from the hydrogen atom. This was filed at DARPA. DARPA is one of the most important divisions of the Pentagon. And I'm sorry, but I'm so emotional about this for America that I apologize. This grant application was filed at the division of DARPA, D-A-R-P-A, which is the most important branch of the Pentagon, dealing with basically new military technology and new weapons and so on. And it was processed. The application was processed by Victor Tang, T. Thomas A-N-G, and this too was turned down because of what in that page. We filed the lawsuit, as I indicated, because of this page, which is exhibit number
136.
136. And I have the conclusion. It is my deep conviction that is one of the reasons that we filed this lawsuit without ever, by knowing they will never get a penny back. It is my reason. It is my documented reason that this irresponsible and vulgar and slander, systematic slander and defamation by Victor. I'm sorry, by Frank Israel and Pepijn Van Aert, with full complicity of Arthur Rubin, David Epstein, Mark Bernstein, and the member of the same cartel at Google's, constitutes a real threat to our national security, because this is only one of many cases in which the new technology, the direct military relevance, cannot be developed because the theory are in conflict with Einstein. You should know that the synthesis of the neutron from the hydrogen atom brutally violates Einstein theory. You know, Einstein theory are magnificent for the structure of the hydrogen atom, for the electron orbiting around the proton. The neutron instead synthesized when the electron orbit around the proton is compressed inside the proton. Einstein did not, indeed in my paper I said Einstein theory are inapplicable because it would be dishonored over Einstein. But however, everybody knows that the synthesis of the neutron sets the clear boundary of limit of applicability of Einstein theory. That's what they do not want, and that's what they are doing all this. Again, where I know the danger, the damage to our is so severe that if it's continued, that they can really endanger the survival of our civilization. That's the post Tony Lake, the post 22 that you read, was written by true American people who care about this country.
Thank you,
I just want to say that's it. That's the reason why we filed the lawsuit.
All right, thank you, Dr. Santilli.
Is the damage, not only personal damage, financial damage, the emotional damage, and professional damage, but damage to our national security. I could not take it, that turn. I want to, in conclusion, I want to thank my wife, Carla Santilli. Carla, I remove my hat in your honor, because you are a lady with capital L and you are an American with capital A, because you fought and spent your personal money to fight for the country, and I hope other Americans will follow.
Thank you, Dr.
Otherwise, our country is doomed. I'm afraid it's doomed.
All right, thank you, Dr. Santilli. Now, Dr. Santilli, okay, but because we've asked questions now, Mr. Lake does have an opportunity to ask follow-up questions for those questions I've asked.
How many ask? 15, 20 questions?
It's
I'll give you 5 seconds.
Well,
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
all right. Then he didn't have any questions, so.
Can we go?
Well, not quite, because we had Thunder Energies today.
I know.
But you do have the opportunity to read this transcript if it's ordered. I'm assuming that you would want to be able to do that.
I want to have a copy of the transcript and of the movie.
I understand
Any
you
cost? Any
want.
cost?
I understand you want a copy, but what this is that you get to read it to make sure that there's no misspellings or inaccuracies where you said something, but that's not what you said. So you have a chance to read that, and I would just recommend that you do take that opportunity to read.
Thank you. I will have somebody read it for me, but thank you.
Okay, well,
I will.
all right. We'll read if it's ordered.
Whatever the cost, we will pay the cost.
Okay.
No further questions, Council?
No questions.
28 p.m. off the record.
Okay, so now we can do Thunder Energies.
Yeah, and if you've got...
I know I've been coughing a lot, but I didn't realize it.
Today's date is April 18th of 2018. The time is 5:33 p.m. This is a video deposition of Dr. Ruggero Santilli regarding Thunder Energies Corporation. Will the council please state their name for the record and report which
Joe Parrish for the plaintiffs.
James Lake for defendants Pepijn Van Erp and Frank Israel.
Sir, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Dr. Santilli, thank you for being here this evening. I know it's been a long day. This, I think, will be very brief and very
Got to be done. Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you for being here specifically for this portion of your testimony as the representative of Thunder Energies Corporation. I understand you're the CEO of Thunder Energies. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Joe, if you don't have any objection, we'll go ahead and just mark the notice as Exhibit 145.
That's fine.
Okay. Dr. Santilli, as a Chief Executive Officer of a publicly traded company, are you familiar with Form 10-K that companies file with the Securities and Exchange Commission?
Yesterday, the day before yesterday, I gave you a copy of the 10K. You had the copy from me.
Yes.
You can verify that this exactly the copy available at the SEC is printed out from that. Yes, of course.
And those are forms that are filed by companies, in this case Thunder Energies files.
It's filed by that corporate attorney following or whatever a very complex hearing, starting with accountant, from the accountant goes to the auditors. There is a team of auditors that has to endorse. This is very expensive. That piece of paper I gave you is very, very expensive. Cost many tens of thousands of dollars. And after finally, but under control of the accountant and the corporate attorney, and then finally, when it's approved by her, then it is submitted to the SEC for verification, and then after approval by the SEC, becomes filed. So it's a long and complex process.
And it's correct. Sorry. It is important to be truthful in 10-K forms, correct?
Otherwise, it's a criminal offense.
Okay. And in a moment, I'm going to give you copies of the 10-K forms we obtained. In fact, let me go ahead and walk through what we have here, and then I'll give them to you. We have a 10-K for the period ending May 31st, 2013. And I've marked that V146, and that's for Thunder Fusion Corporation, which I understand is the former name of Thunder Energies, correct?
That is correct. Now it's Thunder Energy.
So that's Exhibit V146. Next, we have a 10-K that's marked V147 for Thunder Energies, and it's for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2013.
That is correct.
Okay. And we have the 10-K for December 31st, 2014, again, Thunder Energies, that's marked V148. Then we have a Form 10-KA, in other words, an amendment for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014, and that's V149. Then V150 is the 10-K for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2015. V151 is the Form K for December 31st, 2016. And finally, a form that I believe you provided a copy of, the December 31st, 2017 10-K for Thunder Energies marked V152. With regard to these 10-Ks, I just have a couple of questions about them, and certainly you're welcome to refer to them, but my questions are simply, to your knowledge, Thunder told the truth in all of these SEC filings,
Yes,
correct?
I accepted them.
Okay. And with regard to these forms in particular, if something was material to the value of the company, you would have reported that in the 10-Ks,
It
correct?
depends. It depends case by case. There are very specific regulation by the SEC pertaining to what is recorded there, what should not, what there is an obligation, SEC regulation to report, and what there is no obligation to report. An example, I'm anticipating what your next question will be very easy to predict. There is not only there is no obligation, but the SEC encourages not to report dirt from blogs, such as for the very simple reason that some dirt, such as that thrown by Van Herp against Thunder Energy, is reported in the 10-K, that will affect negatively the stock. So all the rules at the SEC are to prevent, and let me finish the point because it's an important legal point. So blogs, otherwise the 10-K will become this big to report everything this we have now. The Thunder Energy is treated in thousands of different blogs in different languages. However, there is an obligation. There is an obligation by the corporate attorney and above all, and then me as a chief executive, there is an obligation to report when there is a lawsuit. Then there is an obligation. But if there is no lawsuit, no corporation reports. Oh my God! Otherwise, Wall Street could not operate. Those are the official rules from the SEC. I would strongly recommend you to verify them with a corporate attorney. Any corporate attorney will tell you the same thing.
So you have complied, Thunder Energies in particular, has complied with the disclosure obligations as you understand them, correct?
According to the opinion by the corporate attorney, according to the opinion confirmed by the auditor, it's an independent firm. That is the case, and I was just the chief executive. I signed it for acceptance.
Okay, and the 10-Ks that we're going to mark as 146 through 152, that is from 2013 through 2017. To your knowledge, they do not mention Pepijn Van Herp, correct?
No, because they're blogs. It's a filthy blog.
That's fine. All you have to do is say yes or no.
No.
And they do not mention Frank Israel, correct?
No.
And they do not mention any articles by Pepijn Van Herp.
Again, you keep using the word article. I must object. Article is used for scientific.
They do not mention any blog.
Blog. If you then blog, I will accept the word blog. Okay. No.
They do not mention any. Sorry.
It is an obligation by the company not to, it's an SEC requirement, not to mention this what they call the shorting the stock. There are lots of people, when they see this type of blogs in a 10-K, immediately they will abuse to short the stock and do all sorts of illegal operations that the SEC does not want. So this is done 1,000% in accordance with SEC regulation. But the moment that Thunder Energy will file lawsuit against those individuals, if the company decides so, the first thing is there will be an amendment on the 10-K immediately declaring the lawsuit for slander and defamation.
The 10-Ks do not mention any writings of any kind by Pepijn Van Herp, correct?
The name don't exist. Not only that, but there are maybe others in the blogs making their stupid comments. And certainly, we have no obligation to quote it in the proceedings on Wall Street of the Security and Exchange Commission. Those are the rules. Check them out.
Thank you. The 10-Ks do not mention this litigation, correct?
No, because it's my personal litigation. It's not, again, the company, I have to repeat, Thunder Energy will have had the legal obligation. This I'm paraphrasing the words and the letters from our corporate attorney. Thunder Energy will have had an obligation to quote the lawsuit in the event it was an official lawsuit by the company. But since it's a personal lawsuit by me and my wife against two individuals in the Netherlands, the company had no obligation. Otherwise, you have to file the lawsuit of all the stockholders. Oh my God. No. Is this your exhibit?
It should stay with the court reporter. It's the original.
Okay, so
You can just leave it right there, Dr. Santilli.
But I want to take the books out,
Oh.
so avoid them mixing books with
Right.
my books, which I need the books back. Everything else is yours except
Okay.
my books.
Joe, if you don't have any objection, these have been marked, and I'd just go ahead and ask the court reporter to put them with the transcript.
No objection.
They are available on our website. And
It's okay, Dr. Santilli.
Yeah, it's
No objection.
public knowledge.
If you don't mind, I would like to ask him just to, if he recognizes these two letters. I realize that probably should have been done during his, but I just want to get on the record what these two letters are. Dr. Santilli, we previously marked Exhibit V84 and V85, which are letters, I believe, from Mr. Parrish, and I just want to ask if you recognize them. I don't have any questions about the substance.
Can you show them to me,
Absolutely,
please?
I'm passing them to you now.
Can I ask if you recognize them?
Yes, this is a letter from my prior law firm, Fortis Law, to Dr. Israel. And so that was from my prior law firm whenever I was with that law firm.
Very well. You recognize it? That's for
May
sure.
20th of 2016, sent to Mr. Israel.
It's the first time I see this letter, but definitely I honor.
And then this is a letter from my law firm, May 20th, 2016, to Mr. Earp, my prior law firm.
Yes.
Okay. The only reason I asked Dr. Santilli is you were CC'd on these letters. You don't recall seeing them before?
I have so much of it. This was my wife, because she's chief financial officer, and honestly, I certainly have seen the letter,
Okay.
but not read it, and that's my point. But I trust Tony Parrish 1,000%. So.
Okay.
So, but however, I remember that he told me the content by phone. So
Okay.
in that sense, I do know the content of those letters,
Okay.
to my recollection. Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
That's it.
That's it.
Is it true? I don't believe it.
I could come up with more if you'd like.
No questions.
No further questions. 5:44 p.m. off the record.
He'll